Hey everyone, a really warm welcome back to the channel. Well, today's video is one of those really long, sort of comprehensive things that's much more like, I guess, an online course than it is a YouTube video. And this one is specifically aimed at Arriba owners, well, in fact, any other pop-top caravan owner, because it's specifically about awnings that will fit pop-top caravans, so ones that have awning rails at about 2 meters high. And I've wanted to do this video for quite a while. So it's aimed at pop-top caravan users, but anybody else is more than welcome to watch it. But please don't tell me when we finally get to the end that it didn't tell you anything useful for your caravan, because you've now been forewarned. What I'll do first is talk about the awnings that I've got on this Eriba Feeling 425, and then I'm going to share lots of footage. So I had a plan when I went to the NEC show that I wanted to get footage of all the relevant awnings that might fit Eribas and other pop tops, and frustratingly not all of the relevant awnings were on show. So I'll show you as much footage as I got at the NEC as possible, and then you can see what the thing actually looks like on my footage rather than some marketing stuff. But then I'll also put some screen recordings and screen grabs from manufacturers' websites, or indeed retailers if they've got better images and videos and so on their websites, so that you can see everything that's there. So that's the plan. I want to tell you why I chose the ones I chose, and some top tips in general for choosing an awning, and then I'll show you some specific examples. And I hope it'll be useful, especially if you're a new owner of a pop-top caravan, or you haven't bought an awning for a while, and hopefully this will give you some tips. So let's kick off with what awnings I own. And I hesitate because I'm embarrassed to admit I actually own 3 awnings, which seems a bit overkill, but at least two of them at least fit 2 vehicles. So let me explain more. This is the first awning we bought, which is a Vortex Aronde, and with Pet Lufel, I think that's how you describe it. There'll be a in-depth video coming up about this in a couple of months' time, which actually I've recorded already. I just need to finish the editing off. And so this is a full awning, as you can see, and this was very expensive, which is entirely reasonable because the materials are excellent, just like Isabella's are, but these things are bespoke, built to order by a family firm in the Netherlands, so it's entirely reasonable that it costs more than an Isabella. And I got this because I was in automatic mode. I knew we had a small caravan, and I knew we'd need a bit more space, especially when we were doing long trips, and I just ordered the thing without thinking. And it is an absolutely beautiful awning, but for the amount of times that we've used it, it's not a very good value awning, because it's been used 3 or 4 times, if that. But it is wonderful once it's up. So that's the first awning we bought, and then obviously it being an enormous awning, it was totally impractical for anything like a short break of 3 or 4 days. You don't want to be spending, an hour or more putting the awning up and pegging it out beautifully for just that time. So the next thing I invested in was an Outdoor Revolution, and this was actually a T3, but I have taken my sewing scissors and needles to it and transformed it into something that is altogether much more modular and was not available on the market at the time. So I knew I wanted something that had very square sides, so made the most of that pitch space, but wasn't too deep, so that we fitted on the pitch itself, because we had a lot of the standard driveway awnings that were available at the time. And I bought this about 5 years. And so basically what I did was cut the front sunshade off and then reattach a zip so it could be zipped on if we had the pitch space to do it, but also so that there could be a small eyebrow canopy on the front. So now we can fit perfectly on camping in the forest pitches, or camping in the camping and caravanning club pitches, which technically are only 5 by 8 meters. So that's going to be a big theme that's going to come up throughout this video, to bear in mind what the pitch size is. So this was the second one I bought, and this is great. This is magnificent. And if there are 4 of us out, so if you've been following the channel for a while, you know I mostly caravan with just my 2 boys, my now teenage boys, but back when we started, I think they were 8 and 11, that sort of age. So they weren't the most useful. One was over useful, and one was completely useless, but now they're both, I'm pleased to say, very helpful. But anyway, when we started, we needed that extra space to give them a bit more space to run around in, and now they're teenagers, we definitely need the extra space because A, they're enormous, they've towered over me for a couple of years now, and B, everybody needs a little bit of personal space, don't they, when they get to that teenage stage? Well, I certainly do, now they're teenagers. Anyway, so we have this T3 awning, and that comes out if it's a longer trip, just me and the boys, or if it's, you know, 2 nights, 3 nights, and my husband comes with us, and so we're 4, and we definitely need extra space when there's 4 of us here, and I'm the smallest. So that's the medium-sized awning, but it is a bit big and a bit heavy to get out if we're making a 1 night or 2 night stop, or it's just me and the boys for, say, 3 nights or something like that. It's still a bit big and heavy and a bit of a pain to have to carry around and lump in and out of the caravan and so on. And so I invested in this one. Also an Outdoor Revolution. I don't have any brand loyalty particularly. It just happened to suit what I was looking for at the time. It's described as an Outdoor Revolution Sportline canopy. I've no idea why it's described as a canopy. Probably because it doesn't have mud skirts on the walls, so that you can get a bit of a draft under there, but it does have side walls and a front wall and everything, so everything can be zipped up. And this was a great cheap little thing. It goes up in literally 5 or 10 minutes if 2 of us are working on it together. It's single pole, so it's very light and easy to thread through the awning rail, because as you know, with a poled awning, the actual canvas is much lighter, so that's something to think about if you're comparing poled awnings with air awnings. So it's very light and easy, it flips in the rail, and then it's just one loop of a pole that just goes up, and you just peg the thing out, and 6 or 8 pegs and you're done. So super easy, super great to give us a bit of extra space on quick stops. So that's the three awnings I own, and the good news for us is because I tow with a VW transporter size van, actually both of the Outdoor Revolution awnings fit on, although I may have 3 awnings, at least it's shared between 2 vehicles. First off, let's go and look at things that are sold as Arriba specific awnings. Of course, they will fit other pop tops with the correct height of awning rail and the correct length of awning rail. And first off, it's this camper, although I guess they're now Dometic, aren't they? So the Dometic Pop Air Pro. That's a bit of a mouthful. That's the 2nd or 3rd time I've recorded that sentence. And this comes in various widths depending on which model of caravan you own. So the 365 specifically for the Troll, and then of course smaller ones for Triton and Down and so on. Do bear in mind that the design of this changed slightly a few years ago, so you need to make sure you're buying, especially if you're trying to buy a second-hand one, make sure you've got the correct rail height for your vehicle. So the newer vehicles have a slightly higher rail height than the older ones, so just check the details about that. And there are some incredibly helpful and knowledgeable folks on the Eriba forum, which is online, or there's the Eriba folk discussion group on Facebook if you do Facebook, and it's full of useful people, so you can always ask questions there. So as you can see, this is the Pop Air Pro, and it's modelled on what was the old Camper Fiesta, and the newer versions of this, so the last 2 or 3 years I think it is, you can actually zip an annex onto the side, which is great. You can only zip it on one side, which is slightly frustrating if you have 2 teenagers and you want to separate them. So it'd be nice if there was an annex on both sides from my point of view, or at least you could choose that. And I think it looks great with the sunshade as well. So for whatever that is, 130, 140, 150 quid, I think the sunshade is probably a no-brainer. So downsides of this one, it's a very heavyweight fabric, so feeding the thing through the awning channel might be a little bit difficult, and a lot of folks seem to struggle with water particularly coming in between the caravan and the awning, and that's something we've experienced with our Aronde as well. And as you saw, I did a video a few months ago where I fitted a Fiamma drip stop. Now that's applicable to this feeling, but I don't think that would work if you own an Eriba Touring. So if you do own an Eriba Touring, then you'll need to buy a piece of plastic that sits along the top of the awning rail and helps to keep the water channeled in behind and running off before it can get through the seam. So that is a top tip for there. Now the benefits, of course, of Arriba specific awnings like this Pop Air Pro is that the ceiling of the awning is actually raised. So you've got the awning rail of the caravan, and then the ceiling itself has an arc in the back to bring that up, which means when you're opening your door, then you don't have a problem with the door brushing on the ceiling. So that's very good. And then let me show you some footage of our Vortex Aronde and the inside of that, so you can see what this looks like. And that has the same sort of idea, with an arc on the back and an arc on the front. In fact, we have 3 arcs because we have the small sunshade on the front as well, and I think it looks much prettier with that sunshade on the front. It looks a bit weird and plain without it. And when you're ordering these things, you can order it with a short sunshade, which is what we've got. I think that's the 80 centimeter one. But of course the front itself is curved, so it's not full 80 centimeters sticking out the front. Or you can order it with 100, 150, 120, a much longer sunshade. Or in fact, because a lot of these things are used for long-term pitches down in the south of Europe somewhere, so quite often people drive all the way from Germany or the Netherlands all the way down to France or Spain or Italy, wherever they head off for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks even. So you can order it with the long sunshade and the short sunshade to give you this massive sort of covered outdoor open sort of veranda space, which is absolutely wonderful. But make sure you're specifying what you need. So understand Vortex's a website before you go through and rush your order through. Frank, that runs it, is incredibly helpful and has excellent written English in emails, so he was really helpful when I was choosing ours, because I'm embarrassed to say my Dutch is not very good. Another choice is this Touring Plus from Walker, if you want a more traditional style of awning. And here again, both the side panels and the front panels completely zip out, so you can just use it as a canopy, or indeed it will take an annex on each side. So again, you need to be using the rain strip if you've got an Eriba Touring. And if you buy the right size, these things also fit Eriba feelings. You can see how the back panel is a triangular shape, and that's supported in the centre by this extra little vertical pole that clips into an eyelet within the awning itself. And then the last of the Eriba specific awnings, which I want to share with you today, is this Isabella one. And this is the coal finish, I think. So this is what I filmed at the NEC show. And as you can see, this has a similar idea in terms of arcing, so that the awning itself is higher than the awning rail of the caravan. And that works really well to give a lot of nice headspace inside, and it feels light in the area because it's that much taller. And then Isabella have got around this leaking problem with this air expandable sort of gutter seal that sits between the caravan roof and the awning itself to help the water run off. And you can just see that bit of pole poking up through the roof, but with a rain-safe rubber cap on the top of it. And then you've got a fly screen on this window with a clear see-through window plastic that zips down over the top. And absolutely beautiful fabrics. They feel really nice. So Isabella have been quite clever here. So instead of using a triangular pole at the top, the rear pole is actually arched. So that gives a much stronger shape and enables the awning to extend a little bit across the sides, which helps it to really connect nicely into the sides and gives it a strength. So I don't think there is an eyelet in the top, but I don't think you actually have to use that vertical pole to hold that rear arch up. Now, while we're on the Isabella stand, this Isabella extension is made of some wonderful fabric, as you'd expect from Isabella. So, of course, the price reflects that, but this is absolutely lovely fabric, I can assure you. And the benefits of this one are that it's very strong in terms of its freestanding ability. So because it's not a sort of hoop tunnel tent type design, it's crossing beams, then it's very strong freestanding. Obviously you can use it as a gazebo if you so wish. And I think there's a back door that you can fill in at the back here as to use as a drive-away awning. The only downside for me is that if you were thinking of one of these as an Arriba owner, you need to double check that there's enough space within the very small tunnel at the back that your door can open satisfactorily without banging on any of the fabric that's in the between the tunnel and the main section of the awning itself. So with this one, you've got one fixed wall on one of the sides which has a mesh panel on, so you can get a good flow of air going through, and then all the other 3 panels can be removed. It's a shame there doesn't seem to be any sort of extension pods or anything that you can zip into any of those spaces, but if you're looking for a simple, strong, freestanding gazebo type awning like this could be excellent. And of course the beautiful thing about this particular awning is that it fits very easily on a pitch. So a few times already I've talked about making sure the awnings fit on pitches, and I thought I would share a little bit of background footage just to explain that in a lot more detail if it's not something you've come across before. And apologies that this is slightly low quality footage. This has actually come straight off my dash cam because I don't like pointing cameras at people and taking pictures of their setups. So as you can see here, this is a photograph from a caravan and motorhome club site, which usually has much wider pitches. So I'd say that in my experience, they tend to be at least 5.5 meters wide most of the time. I mean, occasionally they're just down to the 5 meters, but usually we have plenty of room on a caravan and motorhome club pitch. So they're pretty generous. Private sites obviously vary massively, from incredibly generous to not particularly generous at all. So I can't make a general comment about private sites. But the caravan and motorhome clubs tend to have theirs laid out in a pretty similar way. So we've always found the pitches generous on caravan and motorhome club sites, but much less so on camping and caravanning club sites and camping in the forest sites. In fact, camping in the forest specifically states on the booking website that if you are over 5 meters wide, then you need to be booking a jumbo pitch. And some sites have jumbo pitches, some sites don't. A lot of the sites we've stayed at, particularly the New Forest ones, if they have jumbo pitches, they don't have electricity. So that 5 meters for us is quite important because we do like to use a lot of the camping in the forest sites. We've only stayed at 2 of the camping and caravanning club sites because other ones that I've wanted to get into, I haven't been able to find a space. So we've stayed at Skye and we've stayed at Keswick, and both times we were over onto the grass, despite only having a 3 meter awning, maybe 3.1 meters on a 2 meter wide caravan. So as you can see, they are sticking to their 5 meters wide pitches, and that's what this second image is. This is from Skye. As you can see, there was a small camper van on this pitch. That is just an ordinary outdoor Revolution awning, and if I remember the family that was staying here, they couldn't even use the connecting tunnel, but still their awning is about a third onto the grass, and the wardens were particularly strict about their grass here. We received a long lecture before we'd even thought about getting the awning out about not touching the grass with the awning. So despite having your wheel right up on the gravel grass divide on the other side, there's no way you can get a lot of the awnings that are sold as normal camper van awnings on and still fit on the pitch itself. So if you do use a lot of these sort of club sites, bear that in mind. With sites that are always in a field or on rallies or whatever, then that won't be an issue for you, so you can go for whatever awning you like. But if you do like to use club sites once in a while, then please do bear that in mind. So all the awnings that I'll show you from the show primarily are those that will fit on a 5 meter wide pitch, assuming of course that your pop top is around 2 meters wide. And remember, the widths that are listed in the specifications for the caravans include wheel arches and windows and all that sort of stuff, which obviously is not part of your width from the point at which the awning rail is secured. So first off, here's this Vango Tolga. This is a very neat awning actually. It's a very similar shape to the one I ended up making from the T3 that I applied a Dr. Frankenstein approach to. So very nice and square, good use of space, nice little eyebrow type shelter across the front door there, so when you inevitably get rain, that helps keep that front door nice and sheltered and a bit of breeze in there, and then access from both sides. So in my opinion, this is a really great awning. Ticks lots of boxes, not expandable in any way, but as a basic awning it makes really good use of that pitch. but also you are likely to be able to use it wherever you go at 320 centimeters in total. So you might be a touch over, but hopefully you can just about get away with that. And then one that's guaranteed to fit on a pitch is this Vango Pharos. How would you say that? Anyway, Pharos 2. This is the air version. There's also a poled version available. Very sloping front, so not making so much of that restricted space. Only 275 centimeters. You are bound to fit on the pitch, but it will probably feel quite a bit smaller inside because the front is sloped rather than flat. But you know, great if there's just one or two of you, enough for a small chair or two. This is the Vango tailgate hub, and this looks like it could be magnificent because it's got these zip out panels on the two sides and the front. But sadly, Vango don't sell any sort of extension pods for them, which is really annoying because it would be fantastic to just be able to spread out at both sides. Problem with these tailgate hubs is they're very deep. So this one is 390 centimeters. So there's absolutely no way you're going to fit on one of those 5 meter wide pitches. Obviously, though, it's designed to go on the back of a camper van. So then you'd be almost 9 meters long, though, because assuming it's a short wheelbase, the T6 is 5 meters long for the short wheelbase, and then add 390 onto the back. Then obviously you'd be 890 centimeters long. So if you were in a camping and caravanning club pitch with them, you'd be fine. But if you were in camping in the forest, which is 8 meters maximum, then you'd be over with this as well, which is slightly frustrating. But you know, really interesting if it could be a modular approach. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the next few years, because a lot of stuff presented at the show was modular, and that's been a growing trend over the past few years. So you'll have noticed with these ones that don't really fit, but I have showed you, then I've just put one title bar in, so at least you can see what it's called and what size it is. So here's one that definitely would fit. This is the Vango Byron. So this is a poled version. There used to be exactly the same shape called a Siesta, I think, which was an air inflatable awning. And this is 310 wide by 255 deep. So again, perfect little thing if you want a quick stop type awning, very small awning, very sloped at the front, so rain will run off easily, but it won't feel that spacious inside. The blue air version of this, I think it might be a Go Outdoors and Blacks and Millets and that sort of group. I think it might be only available there, so a sort of special edition, is the Elwood. So same sort of size, just a different colour. And then this Cairns is a similar idea. So this is the poled version. I think there's an air version as well. So a total of 275 deep by 290 wide. And that brings us very nicely to the next top tip, in that if you're fitting one of these things to a pop-top caravan, then you have to be very mindful of the distance you've got between the awning rail and the top of the door. Because if you've got something that's very sloping with a single pole, for example like the Elwood or the Byron, then if it's sloping a long way down, you can find that part of the roof of the awning starts to get in the way of the door opening and closing on the caravan itself. Now that's not a major issue because the door is usually quite rounded and smooth, but it will wear over time, and certainly something to think about. So given the same size awning, for example this Cairns has the second loop at the back, which helps to hold that tunnel section more level, or possibly even slightly higher than the van. So if I were choosing between the two and they were otherwise the same footprint, then I would choose one with a pole at the back, because it will help keep that ceiling up and stop any rubbing with the door itself of the caravan. And then I had a wander around the Old Pro stand. There's not very much here at all. Actually, everything is too deep, really, for a pop-top caravan. But obviously I was trying to look at all the manufacturers whilst I was at the show. So what I'm looking for in an awning is something that is basically guaranteed to fit on any pitch. So basically I'm looking for about 3 meters absolute maximum to go on our Arriba, because we're just over 2 meters by the time I've subtracted all the extra width of the wheel arches and so on. And ideally is modular, so it would be great if there was a small central sort of hub, and then it would be marvelous if that could then be extended out to the sides to be able to create extra space. There's a couple of things here. This Cayman Midi Air is one of their smallest hub type square awnings, and this one still though is 330 centimeters deep, so probably still a little bit too deep on the pitch, unless you've got something like a puck, and then you might get away with that. And then there's the bigger sibling of the Cayman Midi is the normal Cayman, so this one the Cayman Air. But look, this is 390 centimeters from front to back, so try and stick that on the side of a 2-meter caravan and you're nearly 6 meters wide. So that's not workable either, which is a great shame because it looks lovely. Now the T2 used to fit perfectly, but this has been redesigned this year and it's got about 30 centimeters longer, I think, from front to back. So it's now 310 wide but 350 centimeters including that rear tunnel. So I think that has just tipped it from usable to unusable. And sadly, despite all these beautiful awnings, that is that. So there's not really an outdoor revolution option on show here. Obviously, you've seen my Sportline canopy earlier in the video, that is workable. We do get a bit of rubbing from the main door itself, but that is a cheap quick stop awning and it's currently on sale for about £129. So it's an absolute bargain at the moment. So if you just want something cheap and easy and quick to put up, that is highly recommended by me. The next stand I went round to was Camper, as you'd expect, and I was hoping to find quite a few things here, but they just had enormous things on show actually. The one thing that caught my attention is this Sprint Air, which would fit because that's 280 centimeters wide by 245 long, so nice compact awning. Interesting sunshade on the front. I don't know what was up with this sunshade or whether they've mis-sewn the edges, but it looks like it's been on the Viagra or something. It really does. It looks ridiculous just sticking up there. I guess by the time you peg it down, then it will form a more normal shape, but it's not doing a whole lot of shading over the top there. It's stuck up so high. It's not my camera angle, I can assure you. It looked quite ridiculous in person. So nice little thing if you just want somewhere to put a small chair or two. And again, doors on both sides, doors on the front, so perfectly practical, just very tiny. Now this is really interesting because this again is another one of these hub ideas, and this is the Dometic hub. Now obviously Camper Dometic are the same company, but they've split out their branding, so all the high quality super material stuff is now being branded Dometic, and the cheaper stuff, the thinner materials and aimed at the lower end of the market, is being branded Camper. So this Dometic hub is 230 centimeters square as it stood here now, just as a sort of gazebo. But the way it works, and I'll put some screenshots in a moment, is that you buy sections to zip into each one of these square holes. So you can buy panels with mesh, you can buy panels with clear windows in, and you can buy connecting hubs. So you can buy a connection piece that attaches to a camper van size vehicle, but you can also buy a piece that connects in the boot of a car, so an SUV type vehicle. So what I've done as part of the information is listed the weights and the prices and so on separately, so you can see how it's put together. And interestingly, you can actually get an annex that zips into each side. So you could have an annex on the left and another one on the right, and then just a plain sort of door window on the front. So that is really interesting. It'd be good to see this sort of modular thinking happening, that is for sure. It's not very rain safe or any of that other sort of clever stuff with little covers on the doors, but it is very modular indeed. Now of course the next tip of course is if you've got a range of awnings that you can choose from that fit front to back on the pitch on the side of the caravan, then try and choose one that is a width that doesn't cut across any of the windows on your caravan, because it will be easier to get a nice seal against the caravan and you won't worry about any sort of grit getting rubbed in or any harm coming to the window. Plus you'll be able to open the window if you wish to. So that's the next top tip. And then from that tip we go into Camp Tech. So this is the Kingston. So again, this is definitely going to fit. This is a 3 meter wide by 280 centimeters long, including that tunnel. So as you can see, as every other design, a very sloped front, so just a small space for putting a single chair out probably. The most interesting one here, in my opinion, in terms of style, is this Moto Air. So lovely little eyelet over the front that keeps that front door rain safe. and then lovely big windows, mesh in those, and roll up plastic, and a reasonable price, although it is at 355 centimeters, probably sadly too deep by about 30 centimeters, which is really frustrating because that is a handsome awning. Right, now we go around into the Quest stand. Now I've always thought of Quest as being at the bottom end of the market, and here's one of their sort of thinner awnings, which is quite interesting. So this is the Falcon, but again at 340 centimeters is probably just a tiny bit too deep. You might get away with it if you don't visit too many club sites, so it's just once in a while, and you can manage with slightly scrunching up the tunnel if you get shouted at about going on the grass. But as you can see, those few centimeters do make quite a bit of difference in terms of how spacious the thing feels inside. So this is a reasonably lightweight one. And plenty of doors. In fact, there's 2 doors on each side and a door on the front, so very flexible in terms of wherever you get pitched up. You can just use whichever door is most relevant. And then we come round to my absolute favorite thing of the show, well, certainly in terms of awnings, and this featured in my innovations video, and this is the Quest Orion. And this was a real surprise actually, because I've always thought of Quest as a little bit of the lower end of the market and not particularly innovative, but this is fantastic. So this is the Orion, and it has a footprint of 3 meters wide by 310 deep. So I think the designer has played an absolute blinder when it comes to the design of this awning, because I'm pretty sure 310 on a van makes absolutely the most of every single centimeter of pitch space available. My VW is 180 centimeters wide, excluding the mirrors, so 310 is absolutely perfect to get us on a 5 meter wide pitch. The other thing about this, apart from the look and the fabric and so on, is that it's infinitely flexible. So you can put an annex on each side of the awning itself. You can zip out the side panels and put an annex in there. And also the rear tunnel, the rear cowl that connects up to the vehicle is actually zipped. So if you change vehicle, you can just change that back tunnel. You don't have to waste the rest of the awning. So you just change it for a taller tunnel. And away you go. So I think this is utterly brilliant. So that finishes our time at the show, and let's head back to me in the caravan to draw this all together and round up the top tips in the end of the video. So I hope all the tips were useful, and I hope all the experiences I've had as an Arriba owner for the last over 5 years now, I hope all that input will help you to be able to choose the thing that is perfect for you. I think people sometimes come into Arriba ownership and think they don't have many options, but actually the reverse is true, because of course we can theoretically fit anything that fits a small van like a VW or a Ford Transit Custom, those sort of size vans, with our awning rail at 2 meters high. So there are lots and lots of options out there. The key is to know what to look for, and then that can help you spend your money wisely. Anyway, if it was helpful, you know the normal thing, give us a thumbs up. I'd love to hear what you think, what sort of awning you've got. If you've got something that you know is great that I've missed, that I haven't mentioned, then please do pop a comment in the comments down below, or just tell us what awning you've got anyway, because I'm sure lots of other pop-top caravan owners would love to be inspired by other people and share that experience. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Here we go with the outro and some videos that you might like to see, and I will catch you in the next one. So bye for now. See ya.